Good morning, Dan. And in for Amy this morning is Kristen McQuarrie. She of the Chicago Tribune Ed Board. Amy's Peyton, Amy J's Peyton, is being released from his CPS Reeducation Center today.
I got to hit the button.
Yeah.
Sorry. Such an amateur. Is it the last day of school for CPS?
Graduation.
Graduation
for the young man.
Like 8th grade, maybe?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Uh-huh.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I graduated from 8th grade.
I did too. You know, it was
I
not
don't know why we're making such a big
I
deal
know.
about it.
I was going to say my neighborhood, everybody has graduation parties. Like so I got to write $50 checks to everyone for graduating.
Isn't
from
that
8th
sort of
grade.
like low expectations?
I
Like you're
mean,
celebrating
yeah.
that? So
I
you
didn't
should say
even
to your
have-
kid, yeah, now, it's starting to get serious. When you graduate high school, also not having a graduation
Right.
party.
I
I'll
don't-
tell you when you do something worth
Yes.
celebrating.
Very sure I did not have even a high school graduation party.
That's a prop parenting tip. That's a freebie I threw in on a Friday. So speaking of re-education, Christopher Wray, the FBI director, has ordered political bias training for FBI agents, despite the fact that the left is trying to claim that the IG's report says there was no evidence of political bias.
Interesting.
Which, yeah, so that is interesting, isn't it? And what I'm thinking here is maybe we can do a combo. Maybe the FBI field agents can just go over to Netflix and they can throw in some sexual harassment, Me Too training as well. Have you
This
seen the
is
new?
great.
Have you
This
seen the
is
new
great.
Netflix policies?
You stared at me for more than 5 seconds.
I was a
I'm
sort of a
reporting
glance.
you.
It was a glance.
I counted. That was 7 seconds.
So I try to apply when I'm looking at somebody, gazing at somebody.
Again, 7 seconds.
I applied the same rule I apply to my dog Hayek, which is, so if I stare at him too long, he starts to growl at me. So if a woman starts to growl at me, then I stop looking.
Okay.
So,
And
if,
how many
if it becomes
seconds does it
uncomfortable,
usually take?
well, it doesn't take 5.
Okay.
It's usually much quicker. The Netflix new anti-harassment, obviously, policy at Netflix that, one can only hope will sweep businesses big and small across the fruited plains. For example, as Kristen was alluding to, you cannot look at anyone in the Netflix workspace for longer than 5 seconds. It's considered creepy.
Right. Yeah. So if you're on a set or you're surrounded by coworkers, there's a 5-second rule of making eye contact, and then you have to avert your gaze.
You mustn't ask for someone's number unless they have given permission for it to be distributed. You mustn't ask for somebody's phone number unless they've given permission for it to be distributed. Well, how do you know if you have permission if you don't ask?
Right. And then if they say no, you're not allowed to ask again. So
You get one ask.
you get one ask, and then you can't communicate
What if the
anymore.
person changes their mind but is a little bit reticent? So
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Other rules at Netflix and perhaps a workplace near you include don't give lingering hugs or touch anyone for a lengthy period of time. All right.
That's a good general rule.
Yeah,
I would say, in the
exactly.
workplace.
Yeah, even outside of Netflix, that's a good rule.
Yes, it is.
Don't ask out a colleague more than once if they've said no. So you can't ask a colleague out more than once. You can't ask for a phone number, whether it's for romantic purposes or generally.
Right. I just need to text you about tomorrow's schedule. Nope.
I have not
Sorry.
given you my permission.
That's correct.
Steer clear of a colleague once they've said they're not interested in you. Yeah, okay. Don't flirt. Well, who's the arbiter of that? Are they going to have like a flirting czar at Netflix?
I
Who are the
think so.
how do you arbitrate these things? Also, the rules encourage employees to shout, "Stop! Don't do that again."
If you're feeling harassed, stop. Don't do that again. It's actually in quotes. That is the specific phrase that they would like there.
Shout it in the workplace.
So, ask me for my phone number.
I'm not.
Stop.
Not falling into
Don't
that
do
trap.
that again. Oh, see, you just stared at me again. 7 seconds. You're breaking the rule.
People are going to want to be replaced by robots. Now, Netflix responding to the people ridiculing their policies. We're proud of the anti-harassment training we offer to our productions. We want every Netflix production to be safe and to be a safe and respectful working environment, including the Obamas. We believe the resources we offer empower people on our sets to speak up and shouldn't be trivialized. That's another rule. You're not allowed to trivialize their rules.
I love, there's one article that compares this to, second grade dating where you'd pass a note and say, "Do you like Jane?" Circle yes or no. And in this case,
You can't pass that
if
note more
Steve-
than once.
Right. If Steve says, "Jane, would you like to go to a movie?" and Jane says, "No, thanks." Now Steve can never talk to Jane again.
I mean, this has been happening on college campuses for some time. It's not surprising this would be at these philosophically socialist, PC-addled tech companies. But is this happening in your workspace? Is this happening down at the local ironworkers union? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line 64636DA, the smelting facility you work at. Are you going through the Don't Flirt Netflix training?
Sexual harassment training.
What about the Tribune?
I have never had to go through training, but like I was saying earlier, we do have this kind of contract we have to sign every year about, behavior and what's accepted and ethics. And, I just had to pay you for my McDonald's breakfast because I don't want anybody thinking that you
Right.
just bought me breakfast.
Yeah, oh heavens.
So, but no sexual harassment training yet. I'm
Now-
sure it's coming, though.
So it's not a rule, it's just sort of an unwritten rule that no one is allowed to look directly at John Cass. You have to avert your eyes in his presence.
That is correct. Yes.
Huh.
Well, and he's such a gentleman. None of this would apply to him.
Well, I have obviously.
He always talks to me and looks past my left ear. He never makes eye contact.
Just looks straight up at the ceiling.
Yes.
That's what everybody's going to have
I
to
mean,
do now.
Just blindfold everybody. Just be in a workspace.
No, because
with
then
a
there's going to be
blindfold.
touching that you'll run into people accidentally. You have to just stay in place and address people by looking straight up at the ceiling.
There's nothing strange
No
about
eye
that.
contact. And when you address people too, you have to make sure that it's not flirting. So you have to have just endless
Monotone.
conversations about the weather
Yes.
or your favorite baseball team. I
Right.
mean, it's like a Lego movie basically.
Yes, it is.
Frank and Huntley, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, Dan, I don't know if you comparing the two speeches. You got Chris Ray and you got Mr. Schultz from Starbucks.
Yeah,
They use the same script.
yeah. A comment.
We've got a
is-
couple bad apples, and because of that, now we're going to make it all better because everybody's going to get trained. Nobody really did anything, so why are we going to spend a couple $1 million to train them for something that nobody did anything wrong?
Yeah, it's confusing. These are confusing times, Frank. Thanks for the call. Zach in Downers Grove.
Yeah, I really think these rules are one-sided. I think the person that has the number needs to give permission to the person to ask for the number.
The person who has the number has to give permission.
So
right.
you just have to sense that someone might want your number and then
Does-
offer it.
Yeah, but if you sense that someone might want your number and you're wrong, doesn't that constitute improper flirting?
Yes, it does.
Exactly.
Yes. I
Just don't talk. Then is what you're saying. Don't talk
Pretty
and don't look at anybody.
just sign
right.
language
Pretty
and
much.
blindfolds.
Thanks for the
Yeah.
call, Zach. Yeah. All right.
And at Starbucks, it was unconscious bias training.
Yeah.
Right.
Which we know is pablum, scientific poppycock, including the founders of this implicit bias test. They concede the point that the results are not replicable, thus it has no scientific value.
Yeah, I just like the phrasing. Sort of like when Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin decoupled. They didn't want to use the D word. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
So it's unconscious bias training. What is Netflix? Are they calling it sexual harassment training?
Yeah, anti-harassment rules.
Anti-harassment rules. Okay.
When they decoupled, when Gwyneth Paltrow and that D-bag from not Maroon 5,
Chris
Coldplay.
Martin from Coldplay.
Yeah,
I like
same.
him.
Aren't they the same band?
No.
Did they split the apple?
Oh, that's so mean.
Mike on the north side.
Good morning. I just wanted to say this political correct nonsense is getting a little out of hand. Even yesterday at the Admiral Theater, if you went to see Stormy Daniels, they wouldn't let you in unless you brought your lawyer and a satchel of cash.
Okay.
I can't sing anymore. Can you believe she made me sign a confidentiality agreement?
It's just.
But this
so
is
out of
just to
bounds.
take your eye off the big picture, all they're stealing. Look at the shiny thing here. We're building a tunnel. Forget about all this other stuff.
Yeah, are you excited about the tunnel?
No, not at all. I would have liked if somebody from the Tribune or the Scum Times would have held Emmanuel's feet to the fire and say, hey, how about these kids that are being sexually assaulted? What are you going to do about that? And don't try crying the crocodile tears. We already fell for that with Daley.
Thanks for the call, Mike. Well, we'll get to that. I mean, you got on that story in particular, you have to give the Tribune a lot of credit. Loath as we are to do such things, but we'll talk about it.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
I'm Lou